Films have always managed to create such impressive and immersive worlds, and each year they just seem to be getting bigger and better. But have you ever wondered how the sets for these films are actually made? And what is the environmental impact of film set design? And how do we fix it? One of the ways we can measure the environmental impact is to measure the carbon footprint of these productions.
So how much CO2, for example, does the production of a movie emit? And this is a very difficult question because productions are, as you know, not standardized. So each film shooting is different, and we have to decide if we talk about a studio production or a movie that is shot on multiple locations. In the worst case scenario, for example, locations that are scattered all over the world. The British film and television industry emits each year around 149,760 tons of CO2.
According to data analysis by the BFI, a film with a budget of over $70 million generates 2,840 tons of CO2 emissions.
These numbers somehow don't mean nothing, so you have to find equivalents. The one film in Great Britain is equivalent to the energy use of 342 homes within a year, and that the emission of the whole British film industry within 1 year is equivalent to the energy use of 18,035 homes. That's a lot.
But where are all these emissions actually coming from?
What you will see when you start to calculate the emission, you will see that most emission is due to transport.
51% of emissions from these films are due to the travel of actors, crew and equipment to and from sets and locations, sometimes even across the globe.
One of the latest projects we worked on, it was actually a UK cruise, so a lot of people just flew into Hungary because the shooting was in Hungary. So travel and transport emits a lot. And then the materials, sets, building, and filming spaces, so studio energy consumption.
While working on The Revenant, which is about man's struggle with the elements, we shot on location in the Canadian snowbelt. The irony was, we were hit with record temperatures that completely melted our set. In order to finish making the movie, we had to relocate halfway around the world just to find snow.
The fact that we had to come 200 people in the middle of the summer to the winter in the south in Ushuaia, 9,000 miles from where we're supposed to be shooting this 3 months ago, chasing ice because it's melting.
But it's not just travel. The wood used to build sets and sound stages has been linked to deforestation, mainly due to the use of luan, a plywood which is often harvested from rainforests in an unsustainable manner. According to research from the UCLA, a single soundstage can lead up to 4,000 hectares of deforestation. That's the equivalent of around 9,000 sports fields. Set waste is also a big issue, from plastic bottles all the way up to custom-built set pieces that are just dumped into the waste bin after production is over. According to Insure the Gap, over the course of the first 7 Fast and Furious movies, 348 cars were damaged or destroyed. It really makes you wonder how sustainable these productions are. You also have ecological damage to the environment that sets can create. In 2013, it was reported that whilst shooting the new Mad Max movie, Fury Road, they had damaged parts of the fragile Namibian desert. The film crew had also driven to untouched parts of the desert and tried to erase their tracks.
What a lovely day!
There's also similar reports from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, with claims of illegal toxic waste dumping. Some production companies will offset their carbon emissions, but this isn't always the best method. Planting trees and using carbon capture technology doesn't give you a free pass to cause so much strain on the environment.
That's like carbon offsetting.
Prevention is always better than offsetting.
So with Green Eyes, we work on tentpole projects and studio projects. It means we worked with Marvel, Disney. Basically, you can see Disney there, 2030, Warner Media that will be joined with Discovery now, 2035, they have the carbon neutral goals. So if you're lucky enough to work with any of them, you can call them out on this. You can ask them, just to email your person who you're in touch with and check with them that we know you've got a commitment goal. We know you're sustainably minded and it's all in the media. So what can we do to actually make our film more sustainable and abide by the rules as well?
So what is the solution to all this? One big technological advancement that's been making waves in the industry is the use of virtual production on set. Lucasfilm's ILM are at the forefront of this technology by using what they call the volume on some of their Disney shows such as The Mandalorian and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
In partnership with ILM and Epic, we have put together a system whereby which we can have game engine, real-time render, and video wall technology coming together to create a backdrop for the big, beautiful world of Star Wars.
The volume is an almost 360-degree stage of seamless LED panels that display a live camera-tracked background using Unreal's game engine. Using virtual production to change the background isn't new technology, and has been used with the likes of green screen for years. But by using LED panels like the volume, all the effects essentially happen in camera, allowing you to get more natural set lighting, and can lead to better acting performances, as the actors can actually be in the environment rather than staring at a green screen.
You can really, on the day, focus on performance and getting those shots in a really efficient way. As a director, that's what you dream about.
Rather than having to travel the world for various shooting locations, you are able to shoot at multiple locations all from one place, saving an enormous amount on travel-related emissions.
You could switch between the Iceland location to the desert location, all within the same day of shooting.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the most eco-friendly blockbuster in the history of the studio.
You can also cut carbon costs of sets by making sustainable choices, such as making sure you are using more energy-efficient LED lighting, making sure you have good recycling and waste management in place on set, using sets that can be recycled or repurposed for other productions.
This was all salvaged and reused, and we're renting it, so when we're done with it, it's going to go back there.
Switching to more eco-friendly plant-based foods for catering, using renewable energy sources or connecting directly to the local energy grid rather than relying on diesel generators, and by strategically planning the locations you shoot at.
But what I also see is that in many cases the best solutions are just using your brain and about reducing. So it's about prevention, and I have some great examples. Like we had a project from the Flemish broadcaster VRT, and they had a 73-day production process, and instead of using a generator they had a temporal connection to the main electricity grid, the power grid from the city, and by having that they reduced their budget with €20,000. The same production, they had a deal with a local school. They could park the production vehicles at night at a schoolyard in a protective area. That way, during the 70 days, they didn't drive 43,000 kilometers with their trucks. Again, that's €40,000 more on your budget. So it's not always about having fancy, expensive solutions, it's also about just using your brain.
When done properly, these solutions can not only save the carbon emissions your production produces, but also can lead to significant cost savings.
It's basically, if we could get the script, we could help at script stage, and if we can plan ahead in terms of the schedule where you're going to build your stages, you can plan not just what you're building but where you're going, so you can plan your travel as well, and everything is connected, so all the departments are connected to each other, then you saved money already basically. So that's a big deal. And if you're sending the message early on and you conveying this ethos of we're going to be sustainably minded, we're going to take care of sets, we're going to take care of computers and everything, that from the get-go there will be a different attitude towards sustainability, and perhaps it will spark some ideas as well that you can use later on.
It's not only about what do we show on screen, but also when you write scripts or when you write stories, how much effort will it take to make them. If you write Superman has to travel to South Africa, then you should realize that you really have to travel to South Africa with your cast and your crew to make that film. So it's about that awareness, and I'm not telling you not to travel. I'm telling you to think and use your brain before you decide anything. You also have the superpower to have a brain and to use it when you make choices with your budget. And by using that superpower, I think there you can be my superhero. By the stories you bring and the choices you make when you make these stories, we can save the only shooting location that exists, and that's our planet.